Yo, what is good, my fellow deadheads? Your overlord has returned with yet another Bleach Soul Resonance video. And today, guys, we are finally going to be doing a showcase on Gin. Took me a little bit of time, but I wanted to get him, level 100, all the weapon stuff maxed out that I could to the highest extent possible. And when I first got Gin, I did not really shoot for getting him level 100 as fast as possible. I mean, I guess I did. But, it wasn't as urgent as an issue to me as it was with, Aizen or something like that, right? But Gin is finally at a level where I do desire him being at that level, I guess is how I'm trying to say it. I'm not gonna lie, I did go back into his banner and try to get a second dupe, but I haven't gotten a second dupe. And my pity for the next banner is at, 64 summons, I believe. So I think that's my sign to just leave it where it is so that I can easily pick up the next character, maybe even one-tap the next character because I'm already above the 60 point. But yes, we're going to be talking about this man Gin. He is a full support character, or full assault character. And the way that the main part of his kit works is that he wants to get off a debuff called Impale. Impale pretty much builds up damage over time from a certain number of hits, and then it just explodes in one big burst hit whenever you're fighting with Gin. And also it works on other units on your team, so you can boost the Impale stacks from, if I ran Aizen, Gin, Urahara, Aizen and Urahara are also going to be building towards Gin's Impale stacks, but I think that is just more damage that comes out whenever it's Gin himself who is bursting the Impale. But yes, if you guys enjoy videos like these, you can go down below, you can leave a like on the video, you can subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every single time the dead man decides to hit the Shinso glide. And you guys can also comment down below and let me know what you want to know. And I'll be honest with you, the next character that I have worked on to the same extent kind of as Gin would be probably Aizen, which I do want to go back over and do a showcase for him a little bit more detailed, because I feel like his showcase was kind of look at me, and I feel like I could crack down more on why I chose, the Shards I chose and why I chose the substats I chose. But then also I think Urahara is on that level as well, and you can see I'm working on level 100s here slowly, but not all of them are fully worked on to the extent Gin is. But we're going to go ahead and just trek along into it. So we have Gin's weapon, and we only have an Ascension 1, which means no dupes at all. I do not plan to summon anymore for Gin's weapon. Gin himself, sometimes I do kind of break under pressure, and I do actually summon a little bit more for the character. But the weapon stamp I'm usually pretty controlled about, and I usually try not to go too deep into the weapon stamp. But let's take a look. When Impale is triggered a certain number of times, Gin gains the following buff. Triggered one time, Gin's technique increases 12.5, Gin's technique deals 12.5 more damage for 15 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. So what, that's a total of, because 5 times 12 is 60.5 times 5 would be 2.5, so 62.5 more damage. Then, if you trigger it 2 times, Gin's crit rate increases by 15% for 20 seconds, unstackable. Then if you trigger it 3 times, Gin can actively perform a special counterattack once, dealing damage equal to 800% of attack, inflicting 50 Impale scale, and gaining 1 technique point. Attacks from Gin's team inflict Impale scale at 30% higher rate. So, Gin not only gives himself the Impale mechanic, but also gives his team the Impale mechanic. The Impale scale is going to be, every time 100 Impale scales are applied to an enemy, Impale is triggered once, dealing damage equal to 500% of Gin's attack. Technique point. When Gin charges and releases his technique, he constantly consumes technique points to boost his power. Recover 1 technique point every 10 seconds, and it can be stacked up to 3 points. And if you let his technique point stack up to 3 points, you can hold his technique rather than just shooting off, because you can stack up to 3 charges of it. Instead of shooting off 3 charges individually, you can actually just hold it when you get up to 3 impales and do a different skill. The animation is really cool. We will see it more than likely today as we're doing some of the actual gameplay stages for this man Gin. And if we ascend, let's see. You can see that, because this was what, 12? Usually it kind of tells you in parentheses what the upgrade is. So this was what, 12.5%. So this would increase by 3.125% every time you ascend it. The triggered 2 times effect would increase by 3.75% every time you increase it or ascend it. Then the special damage that he does here would increase by 200% of his attack every time that you increase it. And then this right here increases by 7.5% every time that you ascend Gin's weapon. And what is it? The fastest Zanpakuto is the name of his weapon. Now, if we look over Gin's skills, let's take a look at his passive skill to start. Gein's attacks inflict Impale Scale on the enemy. Upon reaching 100, triggers Impale Scale once, dealing damage equal to 500% of Gein's attack to the target. Except for Gein's attacks, his teammates' special attacks, techniques, battlefield skills, ultimates, and counterattacks also inflict 35 Impale Scale on the enemy. Cooldown 1 second. Impale triggered by teammates' attacks is counted as if triggered by Gein's attacks. So that's kind of what I was saying, how every single character on your team does get the Impale mechanic, and it all registers as if Gein is the one adding the Impale mechanic. This right here, it says only teammates get the 35 Impale scales on these certain skills because Gein gets the 50, I believe we just read. Then passive skill boost 1. Increasing the spiritual pressure charge rate by 100% when landing a basic attack. Then, oh, that's actually, I never noticed that right there. So the basic attacks are somewhat important. That'll explain kind of like some of the reasoning for my shards a little bit later. Then right here, this is going to be each time Impale damage is triggered, technique points recovery time is reduced by 5 seconds, cooldown 4 seconds. And I'm pretty sure it said that the Impale point or the technique points recover every 10 seconds. So if you get Impale off on an enemy, cuts the recovery time of the technique points by half. So that's very good. Then passive number 3 increases technique damage by an extra 60% when Gein's attacking enemies affected by debuffs. So ongoing debuffs include freeze and wound. I don't know that Impale counts as a debuff because debuffs show up on the left side of the enemy's HP, and the building up to the debuffs like freeze points or Impale scale for existence show up on the right side of the enemy's HP. I think that the freeze, or I think that wound actually shows up on the right side. So maybe Impale does count as the debuff because Gein does have element damage boosting in his kit somewhere or from his shard somewhere, something of that nature. I guess I'll start up from the basic attack and work my way up to the ultimate this time around. I feel like I usually do it in reverse. Also, whenever Gein counters, Gein sees the enemy's opening and counterattacks with Shinzo, or Gein seizes the enemy's opening and counterattacks with Shinzo, dealing damage equal to 1280% of attack and inflicting 50 Impale scale. Gein gains 1 technique point if he counters successfully. Okay. Gein swiftly strikes the enemy in front of him 5 times with Shinzo, dealing damage equal to 656% of attack and inflicting 40 Impale scale. Gein also accumulates spiritual pressure if his attack hits the enemy. Then his Serpent Tail penetration. Tap basic attack after triggering a perfect dodge, releasing Spear Rain or Blade Sundering Spear. I don't think I've ever actually noticed that. I might have to try that one out. Gein rapidly impales the enemy with Shinzo, dealing damage equal to 540% of attack and inflicting 30 Impale scale. Then his special attack. Gein press and hold basic attack with 50 or more spiritual pressure. Gein thrusts forward with Shinzo, dealing damage equal to 440% of the attack and inflicting 15 Impale scale. Upon a successful hit, the recovery time of technique point is reduced by 1 second. Spear Rain. Quickly tap and hold the basic attack when spiritual pressure is no less than 50 after performing a spear thrust. So do this first and then do the Spear Rain afterwards. Gein leaps over the enemy and extends Shinzo to attack mid-air, dealing damage equal to 660% of attack and inflicting 25 Impale scale. Upon successful hit, the recovery time of technique points is reduced by 2 seconds. And actually, now that I'm reading that description, I feel like I have actually seen that skill before. The technique is going to be tap and hold technique button with 1 or more technique points. Gein enters the charging state, consuming 1 technique point per charge to boost the technique power, and it's very easy to indicate what is happening because you can see the gauge actually lowering as you charge. So you can let it go at the perfect time. And let's see, consumes 1 point, consumes 2 points, consumes 3 points. I usually just do the 3-point one. The 2-point one I rarely do, but let's look. Gein enters the charging state, consuming 1 technique point per charge to boost the technique power. Releasing the skill button or upon depleting all technique points triggers an attack corresponding to the total points consumed during the charge state. Gein is invincible during charging. Recovers 1 technique point automatically every 10 seconds. Now I do very much like this part of Gein's kit where you can either choose to charge up to a bigger attack that's going to do more damage, or if you want to save it and just let off 3 quick burst attack, rapid fire attacks. I kind of like that. It kind of allows him to kind of have different battle tempos, and I like that a lot. Consume 1 technique point. Gein instantly extends Shinzo to attack the enemy, dealing damage equal to 460% of attack and inflicting 12 Impale scale. And you can do this 3 times back to back, so that's essentially 36 Impale scale if you just pop it back to back to back to back. All right, cool. Serpent Shadow Sphere. Gain extinction so to attack all enemies within a fan-shaped area. I think I know what this skill animation is specifically. Dealing damage equal to 920% of the attack and inflicting 224 impale scale. And then Blade Sundering Spear. Gin quickly slashes the enemy multiple times, then dashes behind the enemy and launches them into the air, dealing damage equal to 1840 of attack and inflicting 36 impale scale. And you can see the math on the impale scale checks out because you can either do this one 3 times, you can do this one once, and then do that one time with it to get 36 altogether, or you can just save it for this and get it all 36 at one time. Which the damage scaling actually is exactly the same as well. No, because the damage right here doubles. The damage from one technique point to 2 technique points doubles, which is nice. But then if you save it all the way up to 3 technique points, it's actually 4 times the damage you would do with this. So all in all, just saving up for the 3 technique point skill is going to get you the most damage and get you the most impale scale. So it's probably just most efficient to save up for the 3 technique point charge. But at the same time, like I said, allowing you to do maintain a different type of battle tempo, whether you want to do the 2 point, the 3 point, or the 1 point. Very nice. It is a little bit more versatile of a playstyle, I feel like. Then we have the ultimate. By the way, I think the ultimate animation looks incredible. Gin fast approaches the enemy and performs multiple slashes. He then releases his Bankai and launches a fatal strike much faster than the speed under the Shikai state, dealing damage equal to 3,240% of attack and inflicting 60 impale scale. So if you want my opinion, I'm gonna stop trying to give like work on this skill, then this skill, then this skill. I would say maybe hit up the technique first because of the versatility of it, the charges on it, then the basic attack, then the ultimate, then the counter. And I feel like you should always work on your passives first and foremost, because the passives always bleed into the character's entire like skill set, right? Which makes the character better in general versus, you know, working on a single skill. It makes a character better when they're using that skill. You can use these instead to amplify a character in all regards and then work on the individual skills. Next, we're going to take a look at Gin's boundary. Like I said, I kind of gave up on trying to get this man Gin with one dupe. I just kind of like, not that I don't care, but it's just like, eventually characters always come back in gacha games. We know how gacha games play. We've been playing them here for a while. And honestly, guys, go down below and leave a like on the video just because like all of us have been in these gacha games for a minute. Anybody who's been watching me for a while, we have seen so many different gacha games from, you know, Bleach Soul Resonance to Dokkan to Kaiju number 8 to Black Clover Mobile to Grand Cross to Honkai to all these different games, man. Just leave a like down below because we are really a cultured community of gacha game players, man, and game players in general. Because I play other games sometimes, very rare. I like to keep my channel gacha centric, but even still, sometimes when I'm streaming and stuff like that, I like to play other games. So if you get one dupe for Gin, gain 3 technique points immediately when entering battle. Fully restores technique points after releasing the ultimate. Very good. It just kind of helps you to speed up your battle tempo because you are consistently getting your technique points back at a much faster rate. Boundary Ascension number 2. For every 1 technique point consumed, the crit damage of the next ultimate is increased by 35%, stacking up to 6 times. And guys, this doesn't matter if you do the 3 charge move, the 2 charge move, or the 1 charge move, as long as you get to 6 before you get to the ultimate, because no matter what, whenever you're doing the actual skills, like say you're doing the 3 charge skill, like I said, you're going to see the 3 charges disappear versus it just being counted as 1 giant charge, right? So no matter what, you're going to be building towards this, no matter how you want to vary the combos up with this man. Then, oh my gosh, the name for these like ascensions are brutal. Devouring Mouth, okay, that one's a little crazy. Gin's got to say pause after that one. But Manhunt, evil as shit. Icy Demeanor, that's kind of clean. I like that name. And then what is this one called? Cell Dissolution. Fucking fuck. Okay, let's go back for a second. But yes. Stacks up to 6 times, and then also hitting an enemy with the final strike of the basic attack reduces technique points recovery time by 2 seconds. So just making it so that you get your recovery points even faster. We're going to skip over 3 and 5 because we know that just increases the skills, and that always makes the character better. Ooh, impale damage increased by 100% if you get him to dupe 4. I feel like dupe 4 is a pretty solid sweet spot. Like if you want to ask me, I think that at least boundary level 5 is always like, if you're going to be sweaty for a character, bro, I mean, I can't even say at least boundary level 5. You might as well just go to 6 at that point, because like 5, the extra skill levels are nice. And I like, for instance, Kaiju number 8. I didn't like the way that the skill levels were broken up, or the skill level advancements were broken up amongst the boundary in Kaiju number 8, because sometimes characters have skills that were better than others, but you would get the skills that were worse leveled up first from Ascension, versus Bleach just had it so that all 4 skills are increased by level 2 each time. So it's like, you know, you can stop at boundary 3, you can go to boundary 5 if you like to, but at the point that you go to boundary 5, I say go to boundary 6. At the point that you go to boundary 3, I say go to boundary 4, because boundary 4 seems to be like a banger Ascension point for most of the characters in the game, and some characters are good at just like 1 and 2, but it all depends case by case, right? But then we're gonna look at boundary number 6. The ultimate inflicts snake venom on the enemy, dealing damage equal to 50% of attack every second. Oh my gosh. Then the snake venom explodes after 12 seconds, dealing further damage equal to 40% of the total damage dealt by Gin Ichimaru during the 12-second period, up to 2,500 of Gin Ichimaru's current attack. While charging the technique, an additional wide thrust area attack is released without interrupting the charge. The attack range increases with charge time, dealing damage up to 600% of attack. Now, that does sound really menacing, really overpowered, and it even gives him an extra debuff as well, so it's a little bit easier to make the parts of his kit that are being amplified from enemies who are already debuffed, makes those parts a little bit easier to maintain. Again, reading through this kind of makes me want to go back in on Gin's banner, but it's like, we got more characters that are coming, and I know that the half anniversary character is definitely going to break the game like this man Aizen broke the game. Like, in the way that Aizen broke the game as the best tactic unit, that's the Lord of Ichigo, which we do not have him being confirmed as the 0.5 anniversary, but I can't front you. Out of all the characters that we've seen from the leak so far, all the characters that have released in the game have been characters that we've seen from that leak sheet. Then, not to mention, Master Lord of Ichigo is more than likely the most hyped character to everybody on the leak sheet, so he probably is going to be the 0.5 anniversary. And again, it could not be him, but either way, I think the 0.5 anniversary character is going to break the game if Aizen broke the game, and he was just like a second month in, or almost second month in character. Month and a half in, I guess. But again, it was Christmas, so he was a gift, you know, but I don't think that they can rightfully make the 0.5 anniversary character worse than Aizen just because it's Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Like, Christmas is a natural thing that comes every year. And yes, we get blessed up on the holidays for gacha games. But the half anniversary is more monumental to the game itself, because that's proof of the game being successful, of the game continually going on and lasting. So I think that the 0.5 anniversary unit is going to be insane, and he's going to be another unit, or they're going to be another unit who is going to be worth getting out, you know, maxed out weapon, maxed out ascension, maxed out core stamp, all of that good stuff. Next, let's take a look at the core stamp. So, since they have improved the corridors, or the stamp corridor, it is a lot easier now for people to actually get the core stamp for their characters maxed out, especially when you can just set the rate up as soon as the character comes out. So, my Gin's core stamp is luckily already at Ascension 5. And his is pretty simple, but pretty good. You're going to see the last stat that the attack, defense, and HP is always the same. But the last stat that this one's going to improve is going to be thrust damage. It's going to improve it by 20%, I'm sorry, once you get the page to level 30. But Ascension 5 increases technique damage by 100%, increases ultimate damage by 150%, increases element damage by 40% if the targeted enemy already has an ongoing debuff, and then element damage dealt by Gin is increased by an extra 60%. So just an all-around damage boosting type of thing, where we're boosting his technique damage, his ultimate damage, and element damage, and making the element damage even further more powerful from if they're already debuffed while they're getting hit. So very simple, very self-explanatory. What I want to kind of divulge a little bit harder is the actual shard. So the, what is it, Mocking Visage, that's what it is. We have the Mocking Visage set here. You can see all of them are at 6-star already. And the reason why I want to go a little bit harder on explaining this is because when I did my Aizen showcase, I didn't really explain the substats that I went for or anything, because my Aizen substats were messed up at that point. I have since then gone back and fixed Aizen substats on his actual shards, but right now it's a video about Gin. Like I said, Aizen will have his time to come back around. For Gin, we have a thrust damage substat right here, and the top stat is always going to be attack. But we have thrust damage right here, and then we have crit damage, crit rate, and attack. I say if you have 3 out of 4 good extra substats on the piece, then it's a good piece, right? But yeah, attack, crit damage, crit rate, all no-brainers, and even a little bit of extra defense in there, which full assault characters aren't meant to be the most tankiest characters ever, so the defense I could go without. If this was more attack, I would have appreciated it, but at the very least, when I ascended this all the way, crit rate, crit damage, and attack all had got buffed up to some extent. The only thing that'll make this better, I feel like, again, if this was like attack percentage right here, or even if this still was defense, if this was attack percentage right here. But the 6-star effect I have on this is increases the damage dealt by ultimate by 22.5% when equipped by a full assault character, and the effect is increased by a further 7.5%. And funny enough, I think that all of the rolls I did on Gein's pieces, I think these were all first try rolls. So Gein was just meant in the cards for Gein to be great on my account, right? Then also the actual effect of the shards themselves is if you have 2 pieces on, increases element damage by 50%. If you have 3 pieces on, each time a debuff on an enemy is triggered, the character's thrust damage is increased by an additional 1.5% for 10 seconds. It stacks up to 10 times, so that means you can get up to 15% extra damage if you stack it all the way. And upon reaching 10 stacks, technique damage and ultimate damage are increased respectively by 25 and 25%. So again, just boosting the ultimate, just boosting the technique, and we have the ultimate damage boost right here. So that one felt like a match made in heaven. And I've gotten so many different stamps for different types of characters that I want to be on one. So for instance, right, Aizen has a stamp on right now, I'm pretty sure, that is for full assault characters. And he used to have one on that was for full support characters, right? So I'm still trying to work out Aizen stamps. Or maybe I'm thinking of Urahara or Hitsugaya. I think Aizen stamps, again, like I said, are solid. But then we come to this shard right here. This shard's secondary stat is crit damage, which I very much want the crit damage. And also, we have some ultimate charge rate in here, which is very good. But this one's a more offensive piece, a very good piece rate. So attack, crit damage, ultimate charge rate. A very good combo, I feel like, for this man Gein. And this one is increased basic attack by 30%, damage by 30%, which definitely, I think it could be better. But again, we read something, I can't even remember what it said word for word, but we read something in Gein's kit earlier that is dependent on the basic attacks you are doing. So at least I have extra basic attack damage. Now, what kind of hurts is this piece is also basic attack damage, but it's like a full assault specific one. And this one has element damage bonus as well, so not too bad. We have 2 attack stats on this one. We have crit rate again and HP. Again, another defensive stat, but at least this one's a percentage, so I think it's doing a little bit more for me. And also, increase the damage dealt by basic attacks by 30%. When equipped by a full assault character, the effect is further increased by 10%. So, as you can see here, I'm going for all, damage, output, increase, ultimate gauge, element, damage increase. Like, I kind of have a lot of different, I have this man's shards in a lot of different baskets, right? To do a lot of different things for him. But all in all, I think they ultimately amount to a very good overall effect for Gein. If there was anything I would change, I would at least start by changing this one from basic attack and try to get like technique or ultimate damage right here, or maybe even ailment damage. And then eventually I'd probably change this one. The only reason why I'll keep this one longer is because this one is the same as the other one, but it gives me an extra 10% on the basic attack. And honestly, if it were just this one that were basic attack, I might be chill with it. But the fact that both of these are basic attack and I want something else to be boosted, that's what's kind of messing me up. But nonetheless, I do like this piece and I would re-roll the piece and change it if when I get the chance. Gein's bond, I kind of just left it on the event bond that came out with him because increases technique damage by 32% during battle when element damage bonus is equal or higher than 150%. Element damage is increased by an extra 40%. So makes it so that the element damage is giving you even more damage on top of all the other things that are already working out towards giving you more damage from element damage. But then also you have extra technique damage bundled in as well, and I feel like that one's just like a nice, complete package. And plus, none of these other ones are recommended for him. If you look, usually it has like a thumbs up for him. None of these are like recommended for him. So yes, we're just sticking to the bond that came with his event. I will say this event feels like it's supporting Gein a little bit more because Hitsugaya got a bond from his event, yes, but I feel like there was a better bond already in the game that he could have used. This one I feel like is actually the best bond for him, and plus Rangiku's going to come out, and Rangiku's going to come out at max dupes and everything. And by the way, she's going to be just dropped in our mailbox like a gift from God. But now I think we're ready to actually, let's talk about some team comps first, and then we'll go into some stages. Now, if you guys did not summon for Aizen, this is more than likely the team comp you're going to be looking at. And if you don't have Urahara, you're probably using somebody like Momo or Yachiru or something to that effect, right? But in all reality, they're about to give us that free Rangiku. So if you were looking at a free-to-play version of this team, but you still had Gein, Probably, I don't know who you'd be using for the back line, Rukia or Uryu. That's really your only choices. Maybe even Uryu just because he is another thrust character, so synergy. But I think that Rukia's freeze would beat out the fact that Uryu is also a thrust character. So Rukia would probably still be your tactic unit if you do not have a SSR tactic unit in general. Then your supporter is going to be Rangiku, which is going to be coming into our accounts tomorrow in our mailbox at max dupes, max weapon, right? So Rangiku would be replacing Urahara here, but this is kind of like my team, and honestly, this isn't even the main team I run. You guys know that I'm actually running Aizen right here, so this is my favorite team in the game right now, actually, and for Gin in general. But in all reality, if you're not a sweat and you do not have Aizen absolutely maxed out, and Aizen's not just carrying every situation for you, you'll be using Kaname here. And for the sake of seeing how much damage Gin does, I am going to actually put Aizen away and use Kaname this time around, just so we can see how effective Gin is on his own and not look at Aizen's damage. Because when you start to put Aizen on every team for every single showcase, all of a sudden you're gonna see Aizen just absolutely trouncing the DPS that you're looking at in damage, right? And then you're gonna be like, why even use that character? Why not just use 2 support characters? So yes, this is gonna be the team that we use for the stages today. And guys, we're actually in the first stage that we're about to do. We're gonna do the hardest mission on story, which honestly feels very outdated at this point, but I mean, it still is the hardest stage on story, and story mode is a mode that everybody must do because it unlocks natural progression points in the game. So we're going to just jump in. We're going to look at the type of damage that Gin is going to be doing, and we're also going to look at the breakdown of the damage amongst the skills and see how much time it takes us to beat the stage. This stage is against Ukiura. Now guys, I always start off missions with Urahara in the first slot just because Urahara can go ahead and just cycle through, and the AI in this game is excellent. So Urahara can go ahead and just cycle through all of his skills before, or never mind, I guess forget cycling through your skills. But Urahara can go ahead and cycle through his skills at the very start to go ahead and just get those ratio analysis stacked up to a very nice amount. But you can see Gin is actually melting these health bars right now. Now, I wouldn't say that it's on the level of Aizen melt, but even still, Gin is doing pretty good. And you have to remember, you have to consider that this stage actually is not weak against thrust type units. So Gin absolutely cleared that. But like I said, man, take the story mission with a grain of salt because this is so old. But like, bro, in how much time was it? That stage took us 21 seconds. In 21 seconds, Gin was able to output 4 million damage, and Urahara couldn't even hit 1 million, and neither could Kaname. Kaname had no chance of hitting 1 million damage. But you can see here, funnily enough, the Impale is an element, so that does confirm for us. It does count as an element, and not like a extra mechanic that's being built up, right? But you can see that majority of the damage literally came from Impale. So 2.2 million damage just from that alone. That's over half the damage that Gin actually did. Then his technique is going to be the next bulk of damage. And then he did a few basic attacks. So I guess the basic attacks aren't too bad here, but obviously it didn't matter that much. Gin was in the fight for a total of 10 seconds. So not even it took 21 seconds for Gin to get that damage. It only took Gin 10 seconds to get that damage. That means that the damage he's outputting is 400k per second on average, which is absolutely ridiculous. Versus Urahara being out for nearly the same amount of time, just 2 seconds less, and this man couldn't even scratch 1 million. And Kaname only had 3 seconds, which, hey bro, it is what it is. We're not comparing him to Kaname. We're just using all of the damage on the team in the breakup all together to see like how it is, man. Now guys, we're actually at the thrust trial stage, and we're gonna do stages 1 and 2, and then we'll just look and see how the team does. Or I guess we can look at all 3 because this is gonna be very fast. So yeah, let's just actually look at all the stages and see how much damage this man Gin is doing. The last time I did this and when I beat this, I was actually using a team with Aizen Nikaku, and Aizen just hard carried all the way up to the end. But now that we have an actual legitimate DPS for thrust, let's take a look and see what the stat layout is looking like. Alright guys, so stage 1 actually took 1 minute and 7 seconds, and let's see. 14.2 million damage from Gin. Obviously, half of it, over half of it is from the Impale. Impale is just such a busted mechanic. When I was reading about Impale before Gin even came out, I already knew that it was just going to be absolutely disgusting. But yeah, no, I never would have expected that. Like every time you do something, it's at least half the damage. Obviously, if you're using it properly. I just skipped over the fight because you guys have seen health bar shred plenty of times over and over again. But like, think about the fact that these two, this time around, are not even adding up to a collective 1 million points versus Gin getting his 14 million points. So let's see how much time. Gin was actually in the battle for less time than Urahara and not even double the time as Kaname, which he was almost in there for double the time as Kaname, but you can see Gin himself did 94% of the damage. So like I said, these two weren't even scratching a million. This man far exceeds, obviously. And yeah, let's see what else. Technique. So like the Impale, the technique, I feel like if we got an ultimate out, we got one ultimate out, but it didn't really do much damage actually. He probably got his ultimate at the end of the fight, and the ultimate didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of damage because it was already at the tail end of his health. That's more than likely what happened there. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just jump on to the next fight here and just take a look, because we're not looking at the fights themselves. We just want to see the stat breakup and see how impressive the damage is. We're going to actually look at the fight for stage 15-3 because that is the hardest thrust stage, theoretically, I guess. Alright guys, so stage 2 was 20 seconds faster. This stage actually only took 47 seconds instead of the minute and 7 seconds, and let's see. So this time, Kaname actually got over 1 million damage. But let's see, what is the percentage of damage? So Gin actually did 88.29% damage. So the deeper you get into this, the tankier the enemies are going to become. Gin was in here for 4 seconds more, yet did way more, did 13 million plus more damage. Obviously, we're already seeing a very common theme here. Gin is going to be an incredible damage dealer. It's not like he's fighting for, I kind of want to use Aizen with him now just to see. Obviously, Aizen's going to do more damage, but like, how big is the gap between the two units' damage? I wonder. Again, out for the same amount of time as Urahara. And now that we're at the third fight, I can actually kind of like talk a little bit about some of the animations, some of the extra things that are happening during the fight itself. But yeah, man, that Impale damage is just way too formidable. It is literally, this is the first time we've seen the Impale damage not be half the damage that Gin is doing. But this fight lasted a little bit longer. The enemy was a little bit tankier. And one interesting thing, I feel like Kaname's skills have a better, what am I trying to say? A better range to them, right? I feel like Kaname's skills not only have a very fast cast speed, but also just have a very big range to them, and the added benefit that he can come from the back line and actually just damage enemies instantly too, instead of me having to use a character like Urahara or Gin to come out of the back line and then start attacking. Kaname's initial response out of the back line is an attack. Versus, you know, you can only do that with Gin or Kisuke's ultimate, right? But the thing that gives Gin the edge is the fact that every enemy getting touched is getting hit with the Impale, because every unit applies Impale to enemies. So that Impale debuff is literally just too busted. And honestly, all this is showing me is that, like, Bleed needs to get reworked or revamped or something like that, because Bleed is just not, Bleed wasn't really that impressive. Once you got to high enough level content, Bleed wasn't really that impressive, I feel like, against anybody, right? Whether you're using Tosen and Ikkaku together, it just didn't really matter that much. It didn't go that hard. But let's go ahead and get to the last fight and actually take a look at this one. All right, guys, so now we're here in the final fight here. Tosen is going to instantly switch out to try and get his battlefield skill, like start getting his battlefield skill loaded up. Because some characters need battlefield skills to be loaded up, right? I think maybe his requirement is thrust damage being done versus like Byakuya, right? Byakuya actually wants to come in and do a skill to load up his charges for his battlefield skill. And I could just be rambling, I could just be yapping. Once Aizen came out, bro, a lot of tactic characters just kind of became commonplace to me. I didn't really use them too much more anymore. And also, you can see this right here. Oh, well, I tried to look. Hold on, give me 1 second. Because Urahara just had a debuff. So this is thrust resistance down, right? So that is a debuff in itself. So that should be increasing Gin's damage as well, I believe. But yeah, like I was saying, I feel like this man's range of attacks, like his range of his animations, Kaname, of course, I feel like you would think that his damage would be like somewhat closer to Ikkaku or to Gin's damage, right? But the Impale is just too overpowered, because even when this man Kaname is literally hitting everybody and dealing damage to everybody, he's still dealing impale to everybody, and the impale just far outclasses the bleed. And that took 50 seconds. Let's take a look at the breakdown. So Kaname got a little bit more of a chance here, but again, with impale being on every single skill that your entire team is doing, it's just not fair. You just can't beat this man Gin, right? Which Gin makes Aizen even better too, because Aizen already does monstrous damage, but now Aizen is also doing impale as well, which counts for Gin's damage anyway, but still a bunch more damage being done while Aizen is on the field. Everybody's time was about the same in the fight this time. Gin only had 2 extra seconds, but very clearly the damage is just far surpassed in a way. But guys, I'm gonna actually jump into Guild Boss now and just see how much damage I can do, because usually with Aizen, I think my Guild Boss damage, or maybe we can go and take a look at what my highest score has been with damage, because like every run of Guild Boss that I have done has been with Aizen. So, okay, this is my highest damage. My highest damage is actually 180 million. That's my highest damage. That sounds a little inflated. That sounds a little crazy. I don't know. Like, I'm second place in all of the guilds for damage. Or is this my guild? This is my, I was about to say, this sounds a little inflated right now. No, I think this is my guild. Yes, but 180 million damage is apparently the highest damage I have provided. Maybe in the week, I'm not sure. But usually I feel like Aizen is doing around like 82 million or 86 million, 80 something million damage. We're going to take Aizen off the team this time. We're going to put Tosin in and just see how much this man Gin can do when he is the main contributing piece to the damage. And guys, I was thinking about doing, I'm thinking, like I said in my last video, you know, comment down below and let me know if you want to see a video about Gin versus Ikkaku, right? To see how much more he has improved the thrust team. But again, I think it's just night and day difference. It's just very obvious to me how differently the thrust team is playing now. And I don't even think it's worth the comparison. But hey, man, content is content. And I do enjoy making these videos. I do enjoy testing these characters and stacking them against each other. But another video that I thought about, maybe I could do Ikkaku. Damn, I say Ikkaku. Gin. I think of Ikkaku when I think of Ichimaru, when I really should just say Gin. But Gin, I can do him versus Hitsugaya. That is going to require me to boost my Hitsugaya a little bit more, and maybe I think I need 2 more core stamps for Hitsugaya, or 1 more, I'm not sure. But yes, I think that I could at least do a Hitsugaya versus Ichimaru. Now, that would take a little bit of time to do, because I got to get extra stamp nexus, stamp nexi, and get the stamps correct on Hitsugaya, because I already know I need to replace his stamps. All of his stamps are not, you know, the best stamps that he could have. But enough about other characters. Right now, we can see what with the ultimate we just did 3.4 million damage. So the damage is obviously not hitting like Aizen's damage would. We are only at 20 million. At this point in the fight, Aizen would have already been at like 60 million or something like that. So again, Aizen is just going to clear most of the characters in the game for damage, because he is the front and the back line. So Aizen can work from all angles. But Gin still does improve Aizen, believe it or not, just because he is allowing Aizen to get that extra impale damage out. The damage does end up being considered Gin's damage, but even still, more damage when that specific character is on the field is nothing I will ever complain about. I thought that was a really nice close. I thought the fight was done when I said that, and I thought that was a really perfect like closeout. But I'll take 32 million damage nearly. I'll take 32 million. Oh no, it was a little over 32 million. I'll take 32 million. It's whatever, man. And then we can look at it. Obviously, he's going to be the most. Urahara and Kaname finally had a chance this time to actually get into both of them into the millions, but Gin was out for the amount of time of both of these combined. Yet his damage was more than like triple, more than quadruple both of their damages combined. Quadruple? Because what? 24 divided by 4 would be 6. So these guys, they're a little over 6 million. So yeah, I think that his damage alone is quadruple their damage, even though his time on the battlefield equals up to their time together. Then I guess should I do one more thing? I guess I'll do the I guess I will do the I'm gonna do the co-op campaign, and it's just like a training mission, but I want to see how far away this man is from Aizen when he does it. I'm not even gonna wait for a team to come in. I'm just gonna go in on my own. I'll even put a restriction on it. You put the restriction to level, yeah, literally put it at a point where nobody can join at all. And yes, we already have the team set up with Urahara, Gin, and Aizen. So we're just gonna go ahead and just go on with this team and see how far the gap in damage is between Gin and Aizen. Which, guys, surprise, surprise, the gap is going to be monumental, gigantic, huge. But even still, just want to see what the gap is looking like. No idea how much damage we're going to be doing here. Usually, when Aizen and Urahara are in the mix, the damage is looking like a solid 100 million at least. But guys, I'm going to be honest with you. My stomach is destroying me right now. So, damn, if I leave this to auto run, will it count down on the last page? Because I was thinking I could go use the bathroom while this is running, since it's on auto battle anyway, and then I could come back and I could just cut all the extra time is sitting there for me using the bathroom, and then just kind of break down the stats page again. But you know what? I'm gonna lock in and sit here for this because I know it's gonna end early. Like the problem with the training mode on this is once it gets to 1 minute left, I think it automatically just ends early for you. So okay, Aizen's just doing whatever he feels like right now. Aizen is doing something, and every time Aizen does something, the damage is hitting the millions, right? But Ichimaru is going to be helping to contribute to that as well. And again, the point that I want to make here is not that Ichimaru is supposed to be this full assault DPS who's going to completely overtake Aizen from now on. More so, I just want to show you guys, Gin is gapping all these other units. Aizen is still gapping Gin, but hopefully the gap is not as huge. Saying that Aizen is saying that Aizen is as much higher over Gin as Gin is over every other unit in the game, kind of just goes to show you, like, okay, Aizen is the best, then Gin is the next step down, but even still, Gin is incredible because nothing else is touching him, and it kind of gives you a visual representation of the gaps between the characters right now. I think Hitsugaya, no doubt in my mind, could definitely get close to Gin, but I think it depends on how many dupes each one of them have, for sure. But yo, you can see that they're absolutely melting this man right now on his little armor, so he can't do his little charge up attack. Okay, we got 1 million on that too. And we instantly broke through his little armor, so Yami's not even gonna do the oh, Yami's furious thing, which is very good because that phase of this fight is very annoying. He's flying around in the air, and it's very hard to do damage to him because he's not on the ground with your units. Okay, Aizen's just doing this thing continually. We have what, 1 minute and 53 more seconds. We are creeping up on the, oh yeah, I think whenever Hitsugaya becomes intangible or invisible, he also just automatically just can't take any damage. So you can see, I do think it's kind of funny how Aizen literally breaks the game so much that sometimes a character is in an animation that should not be able to be interrupted, and like you just see the screen shatter and Aizen interrupts anyway. Just the kind of guy Aizen is. But we're getting pretty good damage on Gin's ultimate. The most damage I've seen from Gin's ultimate in one sitting so far. And keep in mind, mine does not have his weapons duped out at all. He's not duped out at all. It's just his his core stamp that is maxed out. But yeah, I've been, seeing like 6.4 million at the most on Gin's ultimate. Obviously, as more dupes come into play, that's going to become better and better. But that is kind of the level my Gin is at the moment. Okay, we got the exposed weak spot, and we just did spiritual dissipation, which always is, oh, this is actually perfect. Actually, that seems kind of weak. That seems like a weak start. Yeah, that was very weak damage that we did there, even though we're in spiritual dissipation mode. But we are getting very close to 100 million. If the fight ends early, 100 million might not get achieved. But I mean, I've achieved 100 million with what? With Urahara, Aizen, and Hitsugaya. So no doubt in my mind that Aizen, Gin, and Urahara can't do the same thing. The burst damage from Impale is just really insane, and I really just enjoy it, man. Okay, this time Yami did get all the way loaded up, so now he's furious, and he's gonna do his little annoying animation where he's flying around in the air. And since he's about to set up for that animation, I'm pretty sure bro is just getting extra like invulnerability. Okay. So the fight didn't automatically end this time. So it looks like they fixed the issue where the fight automatically ends if you get to like the last minute. But yeah, we didn't hit 100 million, which is kind of unfortunate, which means that so far Gin is performing worse than Hitsugaya did, and Gin actually died. So I have had some situations where Gin has died in the battle, but nonetheless, we still had a pretty solid showing of his damage. Let's take a look. Gin, oh, no way. Gin actually did more damage than Aizen. So it seems that the Impale is just too overpowered. Even with Aizen doing all the outright damage that he is doing, Gin's damage still surpassed his because the Impale is just on every person's attack. So how much time did each one of them have out? Gin was out for way longer in the fight too, so keep that in mind. But him and Aizen were neck and neck, which is still very impressive considering that Aizen was only in the fight for 19 seconds, because Aizen can do most of his stuff from the back line. Aizen literally is set up in a way where he'll do something from the front line, then switch to the back line, and then set up his next attack from the back line and get really crazy damage out of it. So I would say Gin has actually impressed me quite a bit this video. The Impale damage has been very impressive and very consistent. He even out-damaged Aizen in this regard, considering that my Aizen is max weapon dupe, max core stamp, all that. But yeah, my final thoughts on Gin. Guys, I think Gin is an incredible character. Do I think you should break the bank summoning for him, destroy all your currency summoning for him? No, but at the point that you do enjoy, you are a Gin enjoyer and you want to summon for him, do I think he's worth going for the dupes? Maybe. I mean, my no dupes just surpassed my Aizen, who's maxed out dupe. Like, bro, and to give you an idea of how crazy that is, my Gin's power overall is 43,880. My Aizen's power is 67,470. And obviously the game is going to prioritize having Gin in the front line more because he's a full assault unit and that is where he's more useful. But even still, impressive that he surpassed Aizen in damage nonetheless for that one instance. And that was just one instance. I could test out a bunch of different stages and everything, but the fact that he surpassed Aizen in general just impressed me. But if you guys did enjoy this video, man, you guys can go down below. You can leave a like on the video. You can subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every single time the dead man decides to hit the character showcase slide. And you guys can also comment down below and let me know what you want to know. And I am going to try to work on the other characters on my account so that I can do some damage comparison tests amongst Gin and other characters. But guys, that is going to be it for the dead man. And remember, chat, new levels, different devils. You guys have an excellent day. Peace.